Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we are done with the NHL entry draft. We are done with if you even want to call it a free agent frenzy this year. There was really not near as many free agents as there usually are available. So we'll be breaking down who was available and who got signed where, as well as a lot of trades and a lot of extensions that happened before July 1st. So to kick it all off, I think we're going to talk some extensions to start with. The guys that stayed with their respective teams. Where do we want to begin with these guys?
Well, it is worth noting that the time of recording right now, it is 3:33 in the afternoon, which I think is very fitting because as of July 1st, we are officially into our third season of doing this podcast. First year, well, we kind of caught the tail end of the Vegas Stanley Cup win, and then our first two full seasons covering the entirety of the regular season, all the playoffs and everything. Both years winning by the Florida Panthers, and we are now here in our third full season. So I'd say congrats to us there. But yeah we got some extensions, I guess, for the most part. Kind of ones I think kind of for the most part saw coming. I guess we'll just rip them from top to bottom, though. We got them here. We don't have them in the order in which they were signed. We kind of just broke it up team by team. So we'll kind of just go through the teams that have major notable ones, and we'll go from there. I guess we were talking about Florida. I mentioned them. Let's go to Florida. They did exactly what we were kind of predicting they would do, and that is they re-signed Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, and Brad Marchand.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, they found a way. They found a way to do it.
Yeah, it kind of always felt like this was going to happen. I'm glad that they didn't. I was really expecting Bennett to take a big discount. There was so many huge numbers going around, and I think he did take a discount compared to what he could have gotten in free agency. But I don't think they got an insane discount on the value he brings necessarily, which sounds insane saying that about a Conn Smythe winner, right? But so he signed an 8x8 to stay with Florida. Ekblad signed 8 years for $6.1 million, and Marchand signed a 6 years for $5.25 million. Were any of these surprising to you on term or cap hit?
I mean, I'm not even surprised by the Marchand at 6 years, because that was a way to bring the cap hit down so he could stay there. So, it's kind of the same thing as Chris Tanev to Toronto last year.
Yanni Gourde
takes a nice lower cap hit in AAV, but spread out over more years that he'll be just fine with that. So I wasn't really surprised with that. I was kind of surprised by Ekblad, the 6.1. I think he definitely could have gotten more.
He's taking a discount on his last deal.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm not 100% sure what his previous deal was, but I do believe it was less than what he's making now, which is...
he's making less now than what he was before. Yeah. So that was kind of surprising, but Ekblad wanted to stay. It was so very clear he didn't want to leave, so he was willing to take a discount to stay. And obviously people were immediately banging that drum like they do to complain of, the no state tax. Like, of course you got a good deal. The difference is it wasn't about getting paid for Ekblad. It was staying where he's played his whole career so far. He's winning. He's having fun. He loves it there. And who are we as fans to tell a player, no, that's wrong? You go get as much money as you want. Like, if a player says, hey, I'll leave money on the table to stay where I've been for the last decade, where I've grown my family, where I've made so many friends and whatnot, and I love it here. Who are we to tell them you're not allowed to do that? Not many guys in the league do it, but
not just that, but the fact that if a guy signs for a lot of money and doesn't even fully live up to that, players are all over him until the contract's over and then a few years, right? So to go after a guy for that, like it is weird. And I can confirm here, his last deal was an 8-year contract for 7.5. Now he's making for the next 8 years 6.1. So he took a 1.4 mil discount on his last deal, which is a sizable amount for a guy who just played in back-to-back cup runs. But yeah, they re-signed all of them. I was a little surprised at the sheer term on Marchand's deal. I thought, like, because a lot of these deals that we're seeing guys sign like that, Tanev, Gord, stuff like that, they're at least 33, 34. Marchand, I believe he's 37. This deal goes until he's 43. That, with how much the NHL is really looking into different cap circumvention, and they're just like basically doing an audit on everything, from LTIR money to guys if they should be on LTIR or if they planned out when to go on to it with surgeries, like different ways teams are moving their money around. I think these CBA negotiations have really made them think like we need to look into a lot of different areas of the game in the orgs. And I'm surprised they went, I could have seen this deal at 4 years. That still takes him to 41. They're probably not he's probably not playing at that point. But
I think he is probably. I think Marchand's one of those few guys that probably does play until he's 40, 41.
He definitely could. Like, I'm not going to rule it out, right? We just saw how good he was there. We were saying he should win the Conn Smythe. And that's he's 40 in 3 years. But I don't know if I see him at that 42, 43 age.
The 42, 43, probably not, but I think he probably plays 4 out of the 6 years.
That's kind of what I was thinking, and that's what I thought he'd get. I thought he'd get a 4-year deal around maybe a little higher than this cap hit, something like this. So I do wonder if the league, if he ends up going on LTIR for the remainder of his contract at some point, if they're going to take issue with it or if they're going to make us think about it sooner, because they're clearly not happy with deals like this that are designed sometimes to, you're only going to play for the first half, but don't worry, we'll pay you out on the second half. So it's cheaper for the team's cap hit. Because pretty much any player in the NHL who's played over 100 games has some reason that if you really said to a doctor, it's fucking me up, they could retire on right now and still be eligible for their money because they're on LTIR. So
yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say, right? It's especially with stuff like that because, as much as people love to shit on Florida now because they're winning, basically everything Florida's done over the past three-ish years, they're just doing what other teams did before them, what other teams laid the blueprint out for, and they're just kind of following suit with it. So it's one of those ones where if they get called out on it, it's going to be a whole thing of examples being like, well, look at all these, and nothing's being done on those if in that time in about that 4 years. So yeah, it's
I do think it feels like this is one that if the league wanted to, and I don't think they want to, I think the league loves that the Panthers are doing well. Like it's not a team that they're itching to make an example of. But a lot of those other deals, those guys are still at least 33, 34. Like, very few players play till they're 43. And, maybe they're like, a bet. Maybe Marchand does play till that point. At which point, how are you supposed to complain when the guy plays out the whole deal?
Well, exactly, right? So it's kind of one of those ones we got to just wait and see. I think,
the league
for what happens
clearly has made it known they don't like it, but I don't know if there's a way for them to, like, how the only way is if you catch a guy at the point when they are on LTIR. You can't be mad about it when it's signed, really.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So all we can kind of do is just maybe wait and see a bit on what happens with that and kind of go from there. But for now, for the time being, I mean, 3 great signings by Florida. They're keeping their guys, keeping kind of the whole crew together. Their entire core is all like now signed through,
like 5 years.
So they can run it back with these guys, and obviously there will be some shakeup here and there as time goes on. But for the time being, the band is sticking together, and they're going to try and run it back there again in Florida. So continuing to be a wagon in the East, but we should move on. Let's move on over to a team Florida knows very well after the past 2 years, the Edmonton Oilers. They did, in fact, give a contract extension to Evan Bouchard. Only a 4-year deal, but at a cap hit of $10.5 million per year.
This one feels almost impossible to judge. It just the same way that Bouchard is so hard to judge as a player. You watch him, and man, there's some bad turnovers. He looks bad defensively sometimes, but he's like top 3 performing defender in the playoffs all time as far as points production goes, like per game. So it's like when he's producing that much, it's hard to argue, right? But at the same time, it feels a bit much, but it feels like what we should have expected about.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not surprised by this. I think it's a fair deal. If you're on the camp of, Evan Bouchard doesn't play defense, he's just an extra forward playing on the blue line. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I think maybe that's a little bit too harsh. I think there is a lot of flaws to his defensive game, but in this day and age, if you're a defenseman and you're putting up the points he's doing consistently, and especially in the playoffs, you're going to get paid. That's just the way it works. You can't be like, oh, we'll give you, like I saw someone say, I wouldn't give him more than 6. And I'm like, all right, well, you're just 30, not smart.
32 out of 32 teams would give him an 8-year deal at 6.5 if they had the option to. Every team in the league.
You would sign that. But yeah, and I mean, a 4-year deal, so gives him and the team a little bit of flexibility down the road. And, for whatever reason, it's not working out. You move on from him, you trade him, whatever. And if you're Bouchard, if you want to stick around there, you cash in for a bigger deal. If you go elsewhere, you cash in on a bigger deal and the cap goes up, especially in 4 years, it's going to go up a lot. So
it's probably going to be at 120 million at that point.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of having, him and Nurse both signed, and it's almost 20 million. But again, that's mostly just because I'm not crazy on the Nurse contract as is.
Yeah.
Everyone else, but for Bouchard and Edmonton, I think it's a fair deal for both sides. And
they got a bit of a core 4 situation
nice
now.
To see them get it done. Yeah. Yeah, kind of do actually, yeah.
And I mean, it's a lot better when your core 4 has 2 Hart Trophy winners and the best player on the planet. But
yeah.
No word so far on a McDavid extension, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that as well. But it sounds like it's not going to happen anytime incredibly soon.
Yeah,
sounds like he's going to wait out most of the summer. But we can move on. We can keep talking about some other signings here. Columbus, the Blue Jackets, they signed Ivan Provorov, 7 years, 8.5 AAV. This felt pretty rich. Am I misjudging Provorov for thinking this is quite a bit of an overpay?
Yeah, so I obviously with all these we don't need to dive too deep into. This one I'll make it short and sweet. I like that they kept Provorov. I thought he was great on the second pair for him. I think that's where he fits. He's not a top pair defenseman. Philly was trying to make him. And so he found a nice spot in Columbus. I think it's good for Columbus here to keep him. But yeah, 8.5 for a guy that is a second pair guy. Didn't have the greatest, numbers last year. I don't fully get it. I guess good on him for getting paid, but for Columbus again, it's I don't know. I feel like Columbus they were like, oh, we got money, let's just fucking spend it, and they were kind of stupid with their money. And we'll get into another one with a trade they made. But yeah, again, Provorov, decent player, but for this amount, I don't love it.
Yeah, especially compared to some of these other deals, it's just really high number.
Exactly.
They just got in Florida. They just got 8 years of Ekblad for 6.1, and you paid 8.5 for 7 of Provorov. Like, sure, there's the Florida. They can get their guys cheaper because it's such a desirable location, Oregon location wise, but that's still quite a discount, or not a discount, I guess, in Columbus's case. Toronto re-signed 2 of their big names. Tavares was a re-sign and Knies was an extension?
No, both re-signed.
Both were re-signs? Okay, so Matthew Knies got 6 years at 7.75, and John Tavares got a 4 by 4.38.
I mean, for Toronto, I like both deals. I thought
these are both incredibly solid.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say. These are just great deals for Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, Tavares put up
that
40 goals. He put up 40 goals last year. I think less than 10 players got to 40. Like, to get a guy like that who, maybe not the captain anymore, but one of the biggest leaders in the locker room, and like that's incredibly solid. And Matthew Knies, like this is one of those deals that has potential to be one of the best contracts in the league as soon as next season.
Potentially could. Yeah. I like I said, I knew Tavares was going to take a discount. I didn't think he was going to take this much of a discount, but at this point, he wants to win. He's made his money. It's just trying to win a cup now. And if by taking this discount, helps them get over that hump and potentially do it, he's fine with it. And Knies, again, takes him till he's in his late 20s. He can still cash in on a big boy. Well, I guess at that time, a 7-year deal down the road. If he sticks with Toronto, so he makes some good money, and just great work by Toronto. They're locking up their guys.
Yep. Yeah, I think especially that Knies deal is in the future going to look real nice. We got a couple other major ones here. The Islanders extended Alexander Romanov 8 years, 6.25 mil per year. This seems like a bit much.
I like this one
as well.
I like this one. Romanov's not getting signed for his offensive production. He's just a defensive-minded defenseman who plays, physically. A lot of parts of his game kind of reminds me of a guy like Matthias Ekholm, and this was kind of the money that Matthias Ekholm was getting 10 years ago. So the fact that Romanov's getting that now, I think is totally fine for a good, solid top 4 defenseman. Can eat minutes, kill penalties.
Yeah, and
you've got guys that can put, well, not your main guy anymore, but you've got a new main guy that's going to be coming in to put up the points from the blue line. And
yeah, and Romanov, you know what? Yeah, the drawing point for him is definitely not his offensive production, but even still, he just had his 3rd 20-point season in a row last season in the NHL, and that's with only playing 64 games this past season. So it's not like he's a black hole offensively either.
Yeah, no, like his offensive game took a step this year, actually, I thought. But again, when you look at him and watch him as a player, it's clear his number one priority first is like playing defense. He's just a defenseman and can lay some big hits. And yeah, it's not an overly rich contract. It's one that I think is definitely movable down the road. So I think it's a good bit of business by both there.
Boston re-signed Morgan Geekie to a 6-year, 5.5 per year deal. This is real nice for Boston.
Yeah, I think it's like, what did Geekie have? 33 goals last year.
Yeah, like
he was a bright spot for a team that looked really shit for some good stretches of the season.
Yeah, 33 goals in 57 games in 33 goals and 57 points in 77 games. Like a guy like that getting that cheap of money while the cap's going up for a good amount of term, like unless he really regresses, that is so solid. And even if he does regress, he's had other seasons at 39 points, 28 points, 22. Like if he goes back to somewhere around a 30 40-point guy for 5.5. That's still fine. Like that wouldn't even be bad. So this is a great deal for Boston.
I really do like this one for Boston, and good on Geeky as well. For agency goes there and has a career year, and he's getting paid for it. So it's definitely well earned.
And one of the last ones here, we got Kevin Ball signing a 6-year, $5.35 million per year deal with the Calgary Flames. This was his first season after coming over from the Devils. He put up a career high in points, only 20 in 73 games, but it's a 25-year-old defenseman. He's 6'6", 230. Like, this guy's an absolute beast, and he plays a great shutdown game. Like, a lot of what we said about Romanov can be applied here.
Yeah, he's basically a Romanov, just a little bit bigger.
Yeah, so like 6'6", 230 is pretty nasty, and having a guy like that kept around is
and that's
good to have.
It's what Calgary needed. They lost a guy like Chris Tanev, who was a minute muncher on the blue line and just again played a good solid defensive game, and that's what Kevin Ball does now. He's a lot younger, and again, you got him on I think in terms of for what he brings of value onto the ice, again, it's kind of a really nice deal for Calgary action for Kevin Ball. You're getting paid, so you get to stick around in Calgary and continue to be there. He's mentioned numerous times he loves being there, so I think both sides are walking away very happy with this and probably gonna have a long relationship together, I think.
Yeah, well, for at least 6 years, as long as he doesn't get moved off this deal. I think that's all the big extensions we have to talk about.
Yeah, these were just I don't think there was a couple that happened after July 1st, like once free agency hit. These are just ones that happened like prior. These are all guys that were either going to be UFAs or RFAs that didn't end up hitting the market or giving other teams a chance. And there's probably some we missed, some smaller ones. So if we missed one that you really wanted to hear us talk about and whatnot, you can reach out to us and let us know, and we'll come back to it and cover in the next one. Because again, a lot of craziness over the last couple of days, and we only have so much time. So again, if we missed your favorite player, your boo or something, let us know. We'll come back to that. But
yeah, I guess we missed the Trent Frederick deal, but I mean, that one's pretty.
We had kind of discussed that actually. We can just say that one's official at least. We're gonna have some draft talk coming up. Doing a quick little review of the draft, but before we get into that, we had a shitload of trades happen this past couple of days. Again, I think all of these I've just listed them here for us in the order in which they occurred. Some bigger, some a little bit smaller. So let's just dive right into all of the craziness, some of the big trades that we got blessed with here.
Yeah. So the very first one that happened, I was really excited for what this one would lead to, and unfortunately, it looks like nothing really came more of it than I thought. But Montreal acquired Noah Dobson from the New York Islanders for Emil Heineman, a 16th overall and the 17th overall picks in this year's draft. I was really hoping that the Islanders were going to be able to package those two to move up somewhere in the top 7-6 picks and go for James Higgins. They didn't end up doing that, but they still got some great picks with those first rounders. So
yeah, so I guess it also is worth knowing that Noah Dobson, who told the Islanders an 8x11, that's what he was getting if he was staying there. And obviously the Islanders weren't willing to pay him that. I don't think he's worth that. And so they sent him to Montreal, and he decides, I'll sign an 8x9.5. So his heart, I don't think, was fully with the Islanders. So you kind of had to make a trade happen at that point. While it would have been nice, and you and I were talking about it lots about, moving up, getting James Higgins, bringing the Long Island kid home. I actually think the Islanders are better off that they didn't, just on the sole fact of what they used those 2 first-round picks on, that being Victor Eklund and Kashawn Aitchison, I think is actually better for them. I think it makes their prospect pool that much deeper. And it was 2 guys that I was very high on, and I was surprised that they fell as much as they did. So
Victor Eklund is one of the biggest steals of the draft almost. Like, I can't believe he almost dropped 10 spots off of a lot of people's rankings. Like, he was very solidly in most people's top 10s. So to get him at whichever they took him at, 16th or 17th, that's an absolute bargain. So
yeah, it really was. And for Montreal, I get the thought process behind it. I do. But at the same time, now you're looking at, I don't know, because everyone's saying, oh, that first line pairing of Lane Hudson and Noah Dobson going to terrorize the league. You can't put them together.
No.
That'd be the greatest offensive pairing in the league, probably. But it does you no good if it's damn near impossible to get out of your own end, because, again, kind of 2 offensive defense, and they need a solid, complementary piece with them to allow them to elevate their game. If they're both trying to do it all, and again, still good defensemen, but not super solid in their own end, that's just not going to work. So it makes their blue line deeper, and they've got lots of young pieces still coming up. They didn't have to move off any of their actual prospects that they had in the mix to make this deal happen. I still like it more for the Islanders, because I think it helps the Islanders out more long term.
Not to mention, they were handcuffed. Like, there was nothing they could do.
Yeah,
like you can't sign that 11.5 deal. You can't give Dobson that money. So
no,
the fact that they made out with what they did is pretty good for them. I believe they also extended Emil Heineman for 2 more years. At a reasonable, I think it was 1 or 2 mil cap hit.
1.1, yeah. So, and that's a speedy bottom 6 2-way guy. Islanders need more of those in their bottom 6 after, all the turnover they've had. And for Montreal, I mean, it now sets the starting point of, Blaine Hudson is, whenever he signs his extension, it's double digits already.
So those 2 are going to be great for them.
Signs a long
term. And they want to. Like, this guy just broke all the defensive rookie records for defensemen. Like, what does this do for a guy like Reinbacher? Do you think he's kind of looking way more tradable to that team now?
I mean, maybe. I'm still unsure, because he's dealt with those injuries, and if Montreal decides to trade him, he was 5th overall, but his value's at an all-time low. So you're not getting, I don't think you're getting anything too special back yet until you kind of see where he's at with his game. But I mean, it's so tough to say still, because I think you still need a right-handed guy in that top pair with Hudson. Because again, I firmly believe, I don't think you can put Hudson and Dobson together.
No, you can't. But I think it's one of those cases where you got the 2 offensive on the one side. You got to find 2 pretty solid defensive guys to put on the right in those top 2 spots, and just kind of have how you always have that offensive guy and the defensive guy. You just have that for your first 2 lines, and then whatever they feel like for the third.
And so, if Reinbacher can come in on the right side and be that complementary piece alongside Lane Hudson, and then if you can put...
is that really using his value, like, as a complementary piece? Like, is that the best way to utilize him? Like,
but that's also saying, like, Matthias Ekholm is a complementary piece, right?
Oh, okay, you're right. That's
I shouldn't say complementary piece, just a guy that works well with him, because Reinbacher, I don't think is going to be an offensive weapon. He's going to be a good 2-way guy, and I think that can work. And then Noah Dobson, now you need a left-handed guy with him. I mean, you got Caden Gooley, who I think that could be a perfect match there. So they've got options. They're still kind of coming out of this rebuild. Yeah, they made the playoffs, but probably shouldn't have. Their plan is definitely playoffs next year now, and Dobson definitely does make them a better team. You needed more higher end guys and not just more prospects in the mix. So I do like it a lot for Montreal for sure, but for the Islanders again, I think with what they got with those draft picks, I think they made out way better in the long run. I think, but again, still a good deal for Montreal.
Yeah, Darsh is. I'm liking what he's cooking over there so far on the island.
Holy fuck! Seeing what he's doing and then looking at what Ken Holland's doing in LA, and that's who the Islanders wanted. Holy, Dobson would have. They would have re-signed Dobson if Ken Holland was there. I firmly believe that. It would have just been, all right, we'll give you your 11 mil per year for 8 years, and then be like, fuck. Now you're
full no move.
Islanders, you could move off from Dobson because you got Matthew Schaefer first overall.
Yeah,
like not even including the picks you just got from Montreal.
I don't know if I don't think they move him, or at least they wouldn't have moved him yet if they didn't win the lottery and get Schaefer. But they knew they had that.
Yeah, and if they didn't, they probably would have just done a bridge deal. Because I don't think it was ever going to be a healthy, long-lasting relationship between the two sides.
No. Well, especially when a guy takes that big of a discount the day after he's traded. Like, he knew he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And if the guy doesn't want to be there, we'll find someone who will. It's New York. It's not... Like, they're not the Rangers, but it can't be that hard for you to find people who want to play there. As long as you put together a decent org.
There's a lot of more players nowadays that would rather go to the Islanders than the Rangers because it's a better living style. You don't have to live in an apartment or anything. You can actually get a house in a quiet neighborhood and have a better life for your family with kids and whatnot. And that's you don't really get that in Manhattan. So not to shit on the Rangers, I think, but it's just cool to see that more and more players are kind of starting to be like, Long Island's fucking not that bad, actually. Yeah, they're kind of down for it. So that's always good to see. But we should move on to the next deal here. This was the one I kind of mentioned before that I really don't like for Columbus. And that is that the Columbus Blue Jackets acquire forwards Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood from the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for a 2027 second, a 2025 third that was already used by now, and forward prospect Gavin Brindley. Again, this is basically what I said. Columbus has a lot of money and they just want to spend it. It's kind of a Kekalainen move almost. That I just, me personally, I can't make too much sense out of it for them. Maybe you got some insight or maybe you see differently. I'd love to know maybe your thoughts on this one.
So Charlie Coyle, I just don't really see sticking around with them super long term. I think he's a guy that gets moved. Maybe they retain a bit and they move him at the deadline, halfway through the season, somewhere in there, and they can recoup a couple of the picks that they sent out in this deal. Miles Wood, he's signed for, I think it's 2.5 per year for the next 5 years. I was seeing a lot of people online being like, this is such an expensive deal. This is too much. Like, he's not worth it. But like, he puts up decent numbers for a guy who plays in the bottom six and plays good defensively, plays a lot on the penalty kill, I believe, in Colorado. So I really don't like, maybe there's just something I don't know about Miles Wood's game, because there was a lot of people saying he's not worth his contract, and 2.5 is just so cheap that didn't really make a ton of sense to me. But
it is cheap.
I don't know why they want Charlie Coyle for sure.
For me, it's both. I could see the value, but again, like Miles Wood, a fourth line at 2.5, there's better ways to spend your money. It's really kind of what I said. You've just got money to spend, so let's do it. And again, Miles Wood, he's coming off the worst year of his career, 37 games played, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. We know what he's capable of. If he can get back up to that 25 to 30 point mark where he's hitting 10 to 12 goals, then it's a good deal. But again, it's you're trying to build this team up. Columbus isn't trying to suck, and if you want to take a risk on a guy, sure, you better hope it pays off, though, considering again what you gave up. Like, second round picks can still be very valuable, and one of your better forward prospects in Gavin Brindley, who I thought was
I don't know why they put him in the deal
the NHL next year. So again, I don't like. I love it for Colorado. You got to shed some cap.
Colorado definitely wins this,
which was
any
awesome.
way you slice it.
Again, if it might work out for Columbus, but I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah, it could work out, but it's like, how are these guys in the deals they're on much better than what you could have found in free agency? You could have found comparable guys for the same price, and then you can structure the deal however you want in free agency, and you don't have to give up Brindley a second and a third for it. So
yeah,
I don't outright hate it like a lot of people seem to, but it's kind of confusing why they did it. And they paid a decent bit. A second, a third, and a pretty decent prospect is a little confusing.
Yeah.
I do imagine they'll recoup probably a second or a third rounder for Coyle at some point throughout the year, unless he's just gangbusters with them and ends up extending.
And if that happens, then hey, awesome. I think Charlie Coyle is a great player, but doesn't seem to be necessarily what Columbus needs. But hey, could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Next trade on here, arguably, actually, no, definitely not. There's one that's worse, but arguably, one of the worst trades you saw here. The LA Kings trade defenseman Jordan Spence to the Ottawa Senators for a 2025 third rounder and a 2026 sixth rounder. Jordan Spence, 24 years old, right-hand defenseman, just put up 28 points in 79 games. I thought he was going to be a good piece of LA's blue line going forward, and
apparently
trade him for nothing. And it's even worse because you now see what Ken Holland was doing in LA, and it was dumping Jordan Spence for nothing so you could give a horrendous contract to Cody Ceci. Because Ken Holland, everybody in this world needs to go out and find someone who loves you the way Ken Holland loves Cody Ceci. It is truly incredible how obsessed that man is with Ceci. Because, again, all I can say is steal for Ottawa and for LA. Garbage. Ass.
Ken Holland's looking at this trade. It's about to go through, and he's like, Jordan Spence, he might be something, but he's already 24, and he's only put up 24 and 28 point seasons on the blue line. But a third rounder, that's not enough. I need a sixth rounder next season. Now it's fair. Like, what?
Yeah.
How? One of the most damning things to me is I want to know how this trade happened. One team has to call the other, right?
Yeah.
There's no way Ottawa calls him up and says, hey, are you moving Jordan Spence? Right? Like, I don't think that happened. So LA probably called around and decided, hey, Ottawa, do you want Jordan Spence? And all they asked for was a third and a sixth next year. Jeez, man.
I don't understand it for LA.
A guy you shouldn't have traded, a spot that you didn't need to fill, and you didn't even get anything good back for the trade that you didn't need to make.
Yeah.
So this is an F. This is a bad trade.
It's awful for LA.
For LA. Ottawa, somebody walked up to you and fumbled the bag in front of you, and you said, yoink. Nicely done.
Yeah, very well done for Ottawa. Next trade here. Another guy who's been in trade rumors for what feels like a million years.
It's got to be at least 4 or 5 at this point.
The Anaheim Ducks trade goaltender John Gibson to the Detroit Red Wings for goaltender Peter Mrazek, a 2027 second rounder, and a 2026 fourth rounder. First of all, why didn't Edmonton pay this really low price for a guy like John Gibson? I don't know, but that's my first takeaway from this game.
I think they're just cowards when it comes to goalies. I think there's some guys in the hockey sphere that just, as soon as you're talking about goalies, they get tunnel vision. I think their palms get sweaty. I think their mouth gets dry, and they just don't know how to handle it. Like, I think there's teams that they'll have a great goaltending prospect, but because they are paying another goalie already. They're like, we can't have two goalies we're paying any reasonable money to. Teams that are be like, we have our goalie budget, and they'll just like let the good one walk or trade them. Like, and then there's teams like the Oilers where they just refuse to pay the price to get a good goalie. Like we've seen them.
What's been their biggest weakness the last couple of years?
Several years, and they've paid so much to bring in these defensemen, bring in these forwards, and they won't do it for the most important position. Your starting goalie is the most important position. He's the guy who will win or lose you the most games. Like if you get John Gibson compared to Stuart Skinner, he could win you as many games as Leon Draisaitl next season. Like for the amount of games that he'll steal and single-handedly take for you. So I just don't know why they didn't go for him. It's weird. And there's not a lot of goalies to go for at this point. He was kind of the obvious one.
Yeah.
And they still need to go for one, even though they're not available.
Yeah, like, they got to go out and find a trade and find a way to get.
If that means you overpay, that means you overpay. You got to do it. You can't go for Stuart Skinner again.
Yeah, and in terms of the two teams in this deal, Detroit and Anaheim, Anaheim.
Yeah.
You had to move on from Gibson. You had to make room for Dostal to come in. That's your guy of the future, and now it's his crease going forward. And I think that's awesome for them, especially as they're trying to make a push for the playoffs next year.
And I think that's a really good tandem to do so. Peter Mrazek and Dostal.
I think Mrazek's a great backup to have behind.
That's not bad at all.
Dostal.
Don't they have a third goalie as well that they?
They re-signed Ville Husso, which I don't understand. Husso. I don't fully get that one, but fuck, who knows?
And you know what? Detroit, they could probably fleece. They could probably fleece the Oilers for one of them if there's nobody else available.
Maybe. And then for Detroit, you're looking to make a push for the playoffs. Once again, your goaltending has been decent, but it hasn't been anything insane. And you look at how close they've been the last couple years. Again, if John Gibson can come in and steal you even just 4 games,
5
out of the full 82, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I think it's honestly a good deal for both sides. I think it's a decent return for Anaheim for Gibson, given where he's kind of at this point now and how the last couple years have been gone. And for Detroit, I think you're bringing in a goalie that can still offer you a lot. And a lot of people kind of gave up on him, but I think he'll surprise a lot of people next year.
Yeah, I think this is around a B, something like that for Detroit. I think this is an A for the Ducks. I think they got good stuff back. They got some value in the picks. I think Peter Mrazek, if they need to, they can move him because they already have their number one goalie going forward in Dostal, and then they also have a fairly decent backup in Husso around if they want to move Mrazek for more stuff, as well as just getting out from Gibson's contract. They're, they don't need the cap right now, but in the next 1, 2, 3 years, they're going to start needing that cap space to re-sign all these young guys, all their Mason McTavish and their Leo Carlson, etc. So,
yeah,
good move for them.
I'm right there with you. It's good little bit of business by both sides. What's the next one we got here? The Nashville Predators. Finally talking about Nashville. Acquiring defenseman Nicholas Hague, who was signed immediately to a 4-year, $5.5 million per year deal, along with a 2027 third rounder from Vegas in exchange for defenseman Jeremy Lauzon and forward Colton Sissons.
And I believe, did this come with an extension for Nick Hague as well?
Yeah, that was the 4 by 5.5. Yeah. That was like immediately after he signed it with Nashville.
Yeah. I actually heard about the extension before I heard about the trade, so I was kind of confused there, especially because Hague was in rumors for the Marner deal the day before.
He was rumored to be in that.
This is a weird one.
I like Nick Hague. I think he's a good player, but I also just don't understand. I still to this day don't understand what Nashville is doing.
Yeah, I just don't like it for Nashville's perspective. Like I don't I like Haig as a player. I don't even mind him at that cap hit necessarily. I think it's a bit high, but for what they're going for in Nashville right now, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. The biggest thing is just because they already got Roman Josi and Brady Shea on the left side. You don't really have anyone on the right side. Now you're bringing in yet another lefty again. I think Nick Hague's a good player. Cap's a bit high on that deal, but I don't overly hate it. But again, it just doesn't fit what Nashville needs. And Vegas, I think you get a good, 6 defenseman there. You get a good bottom 6 forward off a guy that you weren't going to be able to keep around because you didn't have the money to make it work. Is great work by them. So again, I like Nick Hague a decent bit, but Nashville, I'm honestly probably a C plus just because I don't see the vision. For Vegas, it's an A, honestly. Again, you were losing Hague anyway, so you might as well kind of replace that.
Was he a UFA?
Bottom pair defenseman? RFA.
Oh, okay.
RFA. And then you get a solid bottom 6 centerman who's good on faceoffs and a 2-way guy.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Are we getting... We don't have to dive too much into it right now. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point in the offseason probably, but we're getting pretty damn close to the point where we need to dig our heels into the sand and say Barry Trotz is not a good general manager. He was a good coach, but it doesn't translate.
And it's kind of starting to look that way.
Wayne Gretzky was an insanely good player. They call him the great one for a reason. He couldn't cut it as a coach at all. Like, some guys just don't. The talent, the recognition of talent and stuff like that, it's not transferable. Mm-hmm. And unless something is unveiled that shows that Trotz is just big brain in us, right now it's not looking
it's not
great
a good
for
look
Nashville.
It's not a great look for sure. Next deal here, we got a Toronto deal. It's not the Toronto deal you're thinking yet. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquired forward Matias Maccelli from Utah in exchange for a 2027 third-round pick. I like this. I like this a decent bit for Toronto. Maccelli, 24 years old.
Yeah.
He's only a year removed from 57 points in 82 games. As Utah started to get a bit better and their young guys were taking those next steps, Maccelli got moved down. But if he's given the opportunity in Toronto with some of their guys, I think he could easily get back to that 50-point mark. And to pay a third-round pick for that, all day.
I was going to say,
they need players.
Yeah, this is like an easy A+ for me for Toronto. I guess they were just making room in Utah because they did make a lot of trades and a lot of signings. But yeah, 49 points in 64 games and then 57 in 82. Last year, he had a down year, only 18, but in only 55 games, he was out for quite a bit.
55.
And like, he was putting up 57 on the Coyotes. And like, one thing that I know a lot of people like to talk about production that I just do not agree with a lot of the time is they'll see a guy score a lot of points like that on a team like the Coyotes, and they'll say, yeah, like, he's going to be scoring because somebody has to score for them. And like, I don't love the somebody has to score mentality, or like when guys are on the second line somewhere, but that top line has like McDavid, Draisaitl, they're like, oh, well, the second line's going to score less. Only if they have less ice time, right? Like, there's not a maximum amount of goals per game. Like, if you have less ice time, you will score less. But just because you're on a team that scores more doesn't mean you're inherently going to score less. So for that, I think if he goes to a very talented offensive team like the Leafs, like, yeah, he could get back up to 50 points next year. And he's very much a pass first guy. Like, in that 57-point season, 40 assists, the year before 38 assists. So they just moved out a guy like Marner. I'm not saying he's going to replace Marner, but he probably plays on the second power play. He's probably one of the more primary.
I think so.
Playmakers.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment for that.
Yeah. For a third, that's
Yeah.
Almost nothing. Like, that's, especially in 2 years, a third.
And then the big deal that ended up taking place, the Vegas Golden Knights acquire Mitch Marner, coming along with a extension that was signed 8 years, $12 million per year, and going back to Toronto is forward Nicholas Waugh. The trade is 1-for-1, Marner for Waugh. I mean, we kind of knew it was coming. It's crazy that that Marner is no longer on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I would have much rather seen him go to free agency and see the bidding war and see all the teams in the mix. But obviously, we weren't lucky enough to get that this year. But I mean, once again, big fish out there, and Vegas finds a way to get it done. It's incredible how they keep doing it, and they keep finding ways to make it work. And I mean, for Toronto, again, at least you got one of the best third line centers in the league in a guy like Nicholas Waugh, which you kind of need.
And
at least you got something. At least you got something.
This is one of those deals where if you had a family event in the past few days or have one in the next few weeks, you're going to have to explain to your uncle how UFAs work, because there's going to be so many people who don't fully understand it, and they're going to see Mitch Marner traded for Nick Waugh straight up, and they're going to be like, Toronto's out of their mind, right?
Yeah.
This is an A+ for Toronto. They got a good player, and I thought they were getting nothing for Marner. I thought he wasn't getting traded at all. I thought he wasn't getting moved anywhere other than going to free agency. So if you know you're moving the guy, you got a pretty good player for it.
Yeah, it's an A+ for both. I mean,
yeah,
as crazy as it is, like, Vegas obviously gets the better player, but at least Toronto gets something back, knowing that Marner's gone. And it's crazy that, like, Marner was only drafted 10 years ago, and Toronto, an original 6 team, and yet Mitch Marner leaving Toronto is going down as one of the greatest Leafs of all time already.
I think he's a top 5 Leaf all time.
Yeah. Like, in that short amount of time, like, he was a huge needle mover, a huge, core piece for Toronto. And to see that era end is kind of weird. But at the end of the day, it's something had to happen. And yeah, you could have just let Tavares go, but at the end of the day, looking at what Tavares did last year and looking at how much of a discount he's willing to take, like, you're paying Nyes and Tavares now essentially what you would have had to give Marner, if Marner was even willing to take that 12 in Toronto. I think if he stayed in Toronto, it was probably more than 12. So it's crazy how it all played out. It still feels weird that he's not going to be on the Leafs next year. He's going to be on the Golden Knights, but again, it always kind of sounded like it was all roads were leading to Vegas for Marner, whether that was now through a signing trade, day one of free agency, the rumors of them taking it to end of July, early August. It was always going to be Vegas. So we weren't surprised by this whatsoever, but Mitchie Marner going to be a Golden Knight.
Number 93.
Going back to his London Knight number. Fun fact, actually, with Vegas, from the stacked 2015 draft class, they now have 3 of the top 5 picks from that draft.
I guess, Eichel, Marner, and
Hanifin.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's working for him. Man, they signed so many high-profile guys. Everyone always talks about the cap. You can find ways around the cap, sure. I'm trying to figure out how they're getting all these guys ice time. They keep signing them year after year after year. Somebody, like, freaking, they just don't have depth players. They're just playing all their stars all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of what hurt them in the playoffs this year. Their depth kind of got exposed. So, and it didn't get stronger this offseason. It got weaker because you lost Waugh. And Marner's not playing in the bottom 6 there. He's obviously going to go right to that top line.
But it does push people down, Now you got a guy like Mark Stone. Surely he's playing on the second line now. You don't bring in Mitch Marner to play on the second line, so
yeah.
At least you got that locked up.
how it shakes out. But again, yeah, for both teams, it's an A+. If you're not super in depth in the know of what's going on around the league, first glance, you're like, what is this deal? But again, when it's all laid out and why
they were like
Toronto
40 hours from losing him for nothing. So they got a free wall, which
you take that all day. Next deal up here, the Boston Bruins acquire Victor Arvidsson with no cap retained from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for a 2027 fifth rounder.
Nice job, Edmonton.
Good on Edmonton. Out
some cap and you didn't have to pay huge for it.
And you got a pick back, similar to the Evander Kane for Edmonton. A+. You got something back, Boston. C-. Just because, again, I don't think they need a guy like Victor Arvidsson. I don't think he really adds
They traded
too much.
like so many of their guys that they kind of do need players to just play games for them. And like he's still an NHLer, so like I'd still give this a B because I do think if they can polish him up a little bit, shine him up nice, and put him on the shelf, he's only got the 1 year left, I think, on this deal.
Yeah, so, I guess only with 1 year left.
At the deadline, you might be able to move him, do the whole retention thing.
Yeah, maybe.
If not, it's also, Arvidsson.
Yeah, you make a good point.
It hurts the Oilers situation. The Bruins, they're going to be fine for cap this year, so they're going to get some games played. Whether they get a third round pick back for him at the deadline, whether it's maybe they just get a sixth. They'll probably get something back.
Yeah,
and if not, in 2 years, a fifth rounder, that's not much. So
yeah,
I like it for both sides.
Yeah, all right. You kind of sold me on. I don't hate as much for Boston. With you being a big old Boston Glazer, who would have thought?
No.
And the really. Last deal here, this one, in my opinion, is the worst deal. The Carolina Hurricanes acquired defenseman K'Andre Miller, who was signed to an 8-year, $7.5 million AAV deal from the New York Rangers in exchange for a 2026 first rounder, a 2026 second rounder, and defenseman prospect Scott Morrow. Yeah,
that's a lot for K'Andre Miller.
I it's not necessarily that K'Andre Miller's a bad player by any means. I think he's still a solid defenseman, but it's also a guy that clearly was nowhere near as good when he wasn't alongside Adam Fox. Kind of similar to Ryan Lindgren when he was there. He was great alongside Fox, but once he wasn't, it was average. And for Carolina, again, you bring in Miller, but he's a left-handed guy. You need more guys on the right side. Scott Morrow's a great up-and-coming prospect who's right-handed, and then a first and a second. Like, you had the picks, but again, it's one of those things where just because you got a bunch of cap space and picks doesn't mean you need to just start pissing it all away to be like, oh, we got to win now. We got to make a move. Let's just spend. It's like, you still got to be smart with it. And that's something Carolina's usually been pretty good at doing. So this one kind of caught me by surprise. For Carolina, I'll say a B-. Because again, like Miller could be solid for him. I don't know. But again, like for the Rangers, it's an A+ because you were going to lose K'Andre Miller. You brought in Gavrikov, who we'll get to, on a deal, who I think is a better defenseman. You got him on a great deal. And then you add a first, a second, and a great right-handed prospect on the blue line. That's really, really great work by New York.
Yeah.
And we don't say that too often. They made a lot of bad moves.
We really don't.
But this was a really nice day for them.
Yeah, I think you were being pretty nice towards Carolina, giving them a B-. I'd give them on the chance that K'Andre Miller is the guy that they want. I'm going to go a D+, and that's as high as I can go. Dude, Scott Morrow looks like he's going to be a good player. A first and a second is a lot. And on top of that, I don't love the contract extension. Like, there's not really, other than them getting K'Andre Miller, I don't like anything about this deal. Like, I don't like what they gave up, and I don't like the extension. the extension's not horrendous, but he's pretty good. He's fine defensively. Like he's not a phenomenal shutdown guy, and he puts up points. He puts up about 0.35, 0.4 per game on average, but that's a lot of money and it's a long time for this guy. And like they paid out the ass for him, man. Like that's like I'm trying to think who would make sense to trade for that amount of stuff. Like that's rather rich.
Maybe I was kind of being a bit generous. Yeah, for Carolina again, like I don't see the vision. Maybe again, he very well could be a great fit there and be a stud. And we're like, oh, now we look dumb, but on face value of it, I don't see it. I truly just don't see it for Carolina. So yeah, it kind of sold me. I'll join you in the D+ range actually, because that again, just a deal that it just doesn't make sense.
The amount they're paying,
it's maybe like make sense of it, but
the amount they're paying, it's as if they had an injury or like some glaring hole that they had to fill right away before all the good players were gone. Like Carolina didn't need to fill that spot with him, so I just don't know why they were so desperate to get him. Like he was an RFA, right?
Yeah.
What would a offer sheet for this exact deal have been? I don't think the Rangers match it if they offer this exact deal.
At that I'm not 100% sure,
because like
I think it would have been 2 firsts. It might have been a first, a second, and a third.
Offer sheet tracker. This is in the 7 to 9.3 range. It would be a first, a second, and a third next year. So they gave up a first, a second, and Scott Morrow, who I would say is better than a third. He looks to be pretty good, and a third rounder often won't.
I guess another part of it too, though, is like if you do offer sheet him, Rangers would just wait out the 1 week, and then that kind of handcuffs you of, you think you're probably going to get him, but you don't know for sure. So you go the 7 days, and maybe you miss out on a free agent, or maybe you miss out on another trade because you're like, well, we don't know if we're getting this guy. We don't know if we're going to have this 7.5, or if we're going to be paying it to him. So it's one of those ones where they kind of had to pull the trigger to get it done and just know where they're at, and they could move forward. And we kind of see that now by another move they made today in bringing in a free agent. But again, it just doesn't make sense to me from Carolina's perspective. But for the Rangers, absolutely smashed this one. And we don't say that too often here. But that is it for the major trades that happened before the draft, after the draft, for agency, all of that. Let's dive into a little bit of draft talk. We'll do a quick, small little draft preview here before we wrap it up here with the free agent signings, all of the guys that made it to the open market in the end. Where do you want to start here at the draft? This probably won't take us too long, but we will cover some of it to kind of get everybody up to speed who may have missed some of it or most of it or whatever it may have been.
Yeah, I guess, do we want to go just count from pick 1 and go down to, let's say, around 10 and just break down if we like the pick, if we think it was a reach, and then, a couple other ones. There's some other ones beyond there that kind of stand out a bit more than others that we can mention as well.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Fine way of doing it. At first overall, the New York Islanders drafted Matthew Schaefer. No notes. No surprise. Yeah, we knew that was coming. Number 2, the San Jose Sharks drafted Michael Misa. Again,
as they should.
There's rumors, but this was the pick. This was the best available player and the best forward in the draft. So you take that all day. Number 3, Chicago Blackhawks take Anton Frundell. Again, great pick.
I think a lot of people had this. Yep.
Makes the most sense for Chicago. Number 4, the Utah Mammoth Draft Caleb Denoye. Again, it's another one of those best player available. You take it and you run. Number 5, the Nashville Predators took Brady Martin.
This was the first off the board pick.
This was a bit off the board. Again, I said it before. I really like Brady Martin. I think he's going to be a great player in the league. But again, for Nashville, you're taking a massive reach. Why not at least maybe trade back? Because this was going to be a guy that was probably going to be available in the 11 spot, in the 12 spot, just by what these other teams wanted and who they were after. Again, great player. Love him. Love the family setup on the farm. Staying back there for him. But again, the pick itself doesn't make a lot of sense for Nashville. So not a great offseason for Nashville. But I was very hopeful of.
Yeah. And even if you don't want to risk somebody else taking them and going back that far, go back from 5 to 8 to Seattle. Now, from Seattle's point of view, going from drafting 8th to 5th, that's quite a jump. You could get, even if you're just going your 2 firsts and then you also get Seattle's second rounder or something like that. The second rounder is still decent. Like they weren't a great team, but it would be in the high 30s, low 40s for that pick.
They got Blake Fiddler.
So you could just get that extra pick and then probably still get your same guy. It just feels weird because there was definitely some still solid names that I think everyone else would have been picking those before your guy.
Yeah.
But if they really like him at the end of the day, they got their guy. So
yeah, I guess.
Hard to hate that, I suppose.
Number 6, the Philadelphia Flyers take Porter Martone.
This is
a great Philly pick.
This is one of my favorite picks in the draft. I think he's such a Philadelphia guy. I can already picture the Martone jersey very easily. I thought this is the one guy that I thought was going to go a bit higher. I thought he could go anywhere in that 3 to 5 range, and I wouldn't have been surprised. Might have been a little surprised at 3, but I thought it could have happened. But
the biggest knock on Martone this draft was just he's a winger.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And at least when you look at the guys,
every other forward is a centerman.
They're listed as a center, but they can also play wing because it's obviously easier to transition from center to wing as opposed from wing to center, especially when you make that jump to the NHL level. But nonetheless, this is a great pick by Philly. And Martone's going to be a fan favorite there for a long, 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 long time.
Yeah. Getting Martone at 6 and then getting Michkov last year or the year before, maybe. For what did they get him? 7th? Like, those are 2 incredibly value draft picks, even though they're still in the top 10. Like, those feel like they just got an absolute bargain on where they drafted them. And I'm really excited to see what that does for Philly in the future. Like, both those guys, 100%. That's great.
100%, yeah. At number 7, the Boston Bruins take James Higgins. Yeah, I mean,
somebody's got to take
best player
him.
Available. Took a little bit of a slide, but Boston was probably just licking their chops when they see a guy from Boston College right there. Guy was projected to maybe go first overall at the beginning of the year. Didn't really have a down year. I think people's expectations, again, were just too high on him. So that's a great snag by Boston there.
Yeah, and you know what? Higgins was pretty open. He wanted to go to the island, but if he doesn't go to the island, he played in Boston College, original 6 team. Like, it's probably fairly high up his list.
Yeah.
So
he's pretty pumped to go there, I would say. Especially to get drafted by Adam Sandler, of all people.
Yeah.
At number 8, the Seattle Kraken, they take center Jake O'Brien. This one I was shocked by. I thought Radim Murka was the clear pick for them. They need defensemen, especially on the right side. Murka has been playing for the Seattle Thunderbirds in the WHL. I thought it made all the sense in the world, but Seattle said, hey, we need to go 4 years in a row drafting a centerman in the top 10. So, all right, cool.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick because
like Jake O'Brien's a great player, but
they don't have an obvious
doesn't make sense for
number
Seattle.
1 center going forward. You're hoping that could be Beniers or maybe even Wright, but they don't really know if that's hitting yet. And so I think Jake O'Brien's there in case those guys don't pan out. I think they're hoping he can be that guy if those guys aren't, and then maybe they'll move off one of them.
But again, that's what makes it so tough for Seattle to move forward is you just keep drafting centers every year, being like, well, eventually we're finally going to get our first line. So it's like, why not start trying to improve other areas of the team? Maybe that's why you're unsure of who your future center is because you fucking give him nothing to work with. Whereas at least Murka, in my opinion, is a bust-proof defenseman. He's going to have a long career in the league because of his skating ability and his size. He's going to be an effective player. And speaking of Radim Murka, he goes at number 9 to the Buffalo Sabres. That's awesome for Buffalo. You need a right-handed defenseman like we've talked about.
They need it like crazy.
Right into your lap. So why not there?
I think he's probably the guy they picked before the draft, being like, it would be so nice if this guy fell to us. Like, obviously, if Schaefer, Misa, Frondell somehow fall to them, they would have taken him. But I think he was, unless somebody falls crazy far, he was the guy that they wanted.
They won 100%. And then at number 10 to round out the top 10, the Anaheim Ducks get Roger Lightning McQueen, who will wear number 95 for them. So super Anaheim Ducks fans are obviously super, super happy about that, especially the Twitter girlies. They're already frothing at the mouth there. It's wild there in Anaheim. So he probably will need. He's a big boy. He's a very big boy at 6'5". He'll need a bodyguard once he's playing there in Anaheim. No doubt.
Yeah, this is a great pick. I think at 10, this is a really good value pick as well. Just super solid player, absolutely huge. I think this was the right pick at that spot.
Yeah. I guess, was there any other picks?
There was a couple other ones that stuck out a bit to me.
We don't have to dive too far into them, but
we already talked a little bit about it earlier, but Victor Eklund at 16 to the Islanders, that's a real nice pick for them.
Yeah.
I can't believe it took that long for him to get picked. So I think that's a good one.
Braden Coots to Vancouver. Is exactly what they needed. A WHL boy who brings a little bit of everything for him. I think he was the one when he was drafted. They show like a little clip from every player. His clip, I'm pretty sure it was Coots. His was just a Gordie Howe hat trick. He just passed it off the boards to himself, scored a goal, and then there's a scrum and he went and fought. So in one play. So he can do a little bit of everything for him. Carter Bear to Detroit at 13, I thought was awesome. I think they would have taken Victor Eklund there if Carter Bear wasn't available. But a guy like Carter Bear, again, in my opinion, the way he plays, his style of play, he is a bust-proof player. One I really liked because this was the decentralized draft, so every team kind of had some, special cameras making picks. Number 14, the Columbus Blue Jackets, Jackson Smith. It gets drafted, and making the pick was none other than Meredith Gaudreau, which I thought that was incredibly awesome by Columbus to do that, and definitely made the moment a lot more special for a guy like Jackson Smith. And I thought it was a great little nod to the Gaudreau family from the Blue Jackets. So I was a big fan of that one too.
Of course, the crowd not being a bunch of random people, because for the decentralized one, it was like basically all the hockey players and, however many +1s they get, it was just a ton of hockey boys in the crowd. Right. So as soon as she came out, they were all cheering like crazy. They were so supportive. Yeah. So that was also really cool to see. So
yeah,
that was a nice touch there. One other one that I do like that I know you're not a huge fan of, but I really like the Sharks pick at number 30 for Joshua Ravensbergen. I think he's one of the best goalies in this draft.
He was my number one. It's not that I don't think he's good. It's just, again, I don't know.
I think it's just the most value for the pick.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I guess if they weren't high on any of the right-handed defensemen there, which there was a lot of. I also heard, I don't know, someone fact checked this, but someone told me This draft, there wasn't a single defenseman drafted under 6 feet tall. I don't know if that's true, but I was told that. So if someone could fact check that and let us know, that'd be greatly appreciated. So a lot of big defensemen go in this draft, but yeah, I guess if the Sharks weren't crazy on any of them, I guess, yeah, you take the best player available, and if the top goalie's available, maybe plays for you one day, maybe he's a trade chip down the road. Yeah, who knows? I don't hate it. It's just
a little bit of Askarov insurance maybe as well. Like I think Askarov's going to work out, but it's always good to have something in the pipeline. And they've already got guys throughout the lineup. Like they have so many forward prospects in San Jose at this point. Like, and it does also help that 3 picks later they did end up taking take Wang on the blue line, 6'6", 209. The highest drafted
Chinese player.
Highest drafted Chinese player, which was pretty big for them.
He's not going to go by Simon Wang. He's going to go by his original Chinese name. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. But
Haoxi, is that at least how it's spelled? Haoxi? I assume it's one of those, the X makes an SH sound. It's like
it does, yeah. That's why I was like, I'm not going to try. I heard it earlier today, but I can't remember it now. But it sounds like that's what he prefers to go by. So that's definitely very cool that he's keeping his roots. I'm
surprised how many guys don't. Honestly, there's a lot of Russian players that change their name a little bit to come over. And like a guy like Sergachev, like I'm pretty sure his last name is like Sergachev, and it's like
just to make it easier for the announcers.
Is that the like English translation, or does he just like assume enough people are gonna fuck this up? I'll make it easier for him. Like I have no idea how that works. So if anyone out there knows, feel free to educate me on the TikTok or something. Just start yelling it at our most recent video.
Yeah, 2 standout picks here for me, and then I think that's kind of it for what I got in terms of players picked from the draft. Ivan Ryabkin going 62nd to Carolina. Going into this year was thought to be a top 10 prospect, and seems like every year we run into that thing where we got one Russian prospect who's touted very high, falls down a lot because of their work ethic, despite having a lot of skill. Apparently doesn't have the greatest work ethic or attitude, where a lot of teams just had him on their no draft list. But as we know, Carolina loves to draft Russian players, and they always grab that Russian player that is the faller, and they do that again with Ivan Ryabkin. So definitely could be a fantastic player for them. But again, according to a lot of scouts, there's a lot of concern about other areas. And at 29th overall, the Chicago Blackhawks take Mason West. And I'm unsure on this pick. 6'6", 215-pound centerman. He said he's committed to hockey. But in the fall, he's going to football, as he is a great quarterback who has a bunch of D1 offers. So he said he's committed to playing hockey, but he's also going to go 5-6 months without lacing him up to go play football. And then he's going to go back to hockey. And I don't know. He's saying all the right things, but if you're getting D1 offers and you could be a quarterback going to play in the NFL potentially one day.
I was going to say, how good is he?
Could sway him like a
quarterback?
Well, he's getting D1 offers, so pretty dang good. There's a lot of people that do believe he will go to football in the end. He will end up not playing hockey.
Because like, if he thinks he can get to the NHL, obviously, if he thinks he can get to the NFL, he takes that over the NHL. There's just so much more money involved.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you can't get to the NFL, if you max out at the collegiate level, do you think he still goes for that over the hockey career if that's where he kind of tops out?
It probably could, but it'd be tough at that point. You know,
so
a couple years down the road, if you take some time off hockey, it could be tough. But obviously, he's an incredible athlete all around. Like, to be able to, you know, like it, if you look back, this was a little bit further a while ago, but the Oakland Athletics in the MLB I think it was 7th or 8th overall one year. They took Kyler Murray, who they thought was going to be a terrific, phenomenal player for them. And then fast forward a little bit, Kyler Murray goes 1st overall in the NFL draft to the Arizona Cardinals, and now he's he's playing football. And so it's just one of those you never know. He's saying all the right things. He says he's going to be playing hockey, and that's his goal. But again, if you're getting those D1 offers and you're seeing the big paydays that guys in the NFL get, it's tough to say. Could turn his head, could not. So it's an interesting pick. I'm very curious to see how this one goes and what happens here, because I think he could be a great player if he chooses to keep going with hockey and pursue playing in the NHL.
Yeah, and it's also like, obviously football, notorious for guys can rack up concussions like crazy over there. So there's a little bit of injury worries. That the quarterback, they are protected a lot, but they're also the main guy that the other team's trying to hit all the time. So there is a little bit of I guess a lack of safety in him making it uninjured as well if he does go the hockey route. So it not only is this a very unique and interesting situation for him, but also the fact that he was still good enough despite all these other situations, all these other factors. He still went in the first round, Like,
I was kind of shocked by that. I thought he was going to be in like early second round.
Yeah, so it does make you wonder, like, what is his skill at then? Like, if there was no football, if he was just playing hockey, does he go close to the top 10? Is he that level of player? Like, it's hard to tell, but he's 6'6", 218, so he's a big boy. So if he comes over and starts playing in more higher leagues in hockey and ends up getting to the AHL and the NHL for the Blackhawks, you know what?
Yeah.
So he'll probably be pretty successful.
Last thing with the draft here, we've kind of gone through the players. Again, if there's any players from the draft that your team drafting, you want to hear our thoughts on them, reach out and let us know. We can always come back in the next one and cover that as well, because there's a lot of players, and again, we don't have a lot of time. Last thing I'll ask you about the draft before we move on. What were your thoughts on the decentralized aspect of it?
I mean, same as pretty much everyone else. It just sucked. It was not it. It took way too long. It took an insanely long time to do that first round. They're only doing 32 players, and it took them like 4.5 hours. That's just goofy. It does not need to take that long.
I love the draft, don't get me wrong, but it was pretty long and drawn out. I would agree.
The players were getting restless in their seats halfway through, less alone the end. There was technical issues, notably James Hagen's technical issues when he got on the stage were going around a lot because he just kind of awkwardly stood in front of the camera after biggest moment of his life so far, getting drafted, and then they're just frozen. He's just, okay, thank you for your time. Like, it's just awkward. Whoever was doing a lot of the questions and on stage reporting did a really bad job for some of the players as well. I know they asked some pretty damn inappropriate questions at times. They asked Schaefer, "What do you miss most about your mom?"
That one was weird. Yeah,
for the love of God, man, you have to vet with one other living human on what questions you should ask. Ask one other person, do you think these are good questions? Like, at least run them by somebody. So
one thing I will say,
that was also rough
with it, because people are like, "Oh, fucking Gary Bettman." This wasn't Gary Bettman's decision.
No, it was the
I feel like on this podcast, and the owners, So it's kind of starting to feel like I'm a Gary Bettman defender, and maybe I am. But it was definitely not his decision. It was, and a lot of GMs stated they liked the aspect of being in back in their facilities and their quarters where they're comfortable, getting to go home and be back at their house at the end of the draft and whatnot right away. And but I think for the league, I think just you got to go back to the old way. It was a lot quicker. It was a lot cooler.
Just have it in the Sphere every year. One of the guys who owns one of your biggest teams owns it, so you can just do it there year in, year out. You don't have to worry about conflicting schedules, and you could probably get some sort of discount on it. I don't know how renting it out works, but yeah, and then you're not going to have near as much trouble getting everybody involved, getting all the people you want to go there because it's in Vegas. Oh man, I got invited to this big thing and it's in Las Vegas. Fuck, I don't want to go to that. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see him just take it back to the Sphere. It worked there, was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens there. But overall, decentralized draft, I liked the concept of the, the whole cameos from people making the picks and making it a bit exciting. That was fun. It was cool to see what people had, but overall, it was just way too long, way too drawn out. And yeah. I kind of, I love the draft.
Long, drawn out, and a little impersonal once the guys get on the stage and they go to this weird back room and do a quick Zoom call.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But we will truck forward here into our last segment here, and that is reviewing the top signings from free agency. Again, we went through the extensions. Not a lot of huge names ended up making it to the open market, but some did. So we can kind of go through the top ones here and give our quick thoughts here. Where do you want to start?
Do we just want to go by some of the biggest cap hits and just kind of work our way down a bit the list?
Yeah.
We can go with I believe one of the most recent ones. This one happened earlier today. Nikolai Ehlers going to Carolina for 6 years with a cap hit of 8.5 mil per season. I like this for Carolina.
We knew he was going there. Like we predicted this a week ago. It made the sense. They had the money. There was already rumors about it, and Ehlers and his camp did their due diligence. They saw it was out there. They saw the offers, and they decided to stick to what everybody kind of thought, and that was Carolina. And I think it's a great fit for both Ehlers and for Carolina.
I don't know, like Nick Ehlers for 6 years at 8.5, and then they also give Keandre Miller 8 years at 7.5. Is he really within 1 mil of how helpful he is to your team?
Exactly.
Like
I'm with you.
That's nothing bad on the Ehlers deal. I think it's a good signing for Carolina, and I think the cap hit will age well with the cap going up as well. But obviously the Miller one, that's a lot of money they just locked up for a good amount of time that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
The next one, this is one that I didn't see too much on this. I saw a lot of rumors. I didn't know it actually fully happened. But Thatcher Demko extended with the Vancouver Canucks 3 years at 8.5 per year as well. So that's a lot of money tied up in their goalies. I believe they're paying 5 or 5 point something for Lankinen.
And they still got Shilov's down there. And again, I like Demko. I think when he's on his game, he's one of the better goalies in the league. But for a guy that has struggled to remain healthy, and especially with this new injury he's dealing with that you can never fully recover from, it's just learning how to play through it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money tied up into him. And especially when you got other goalies in the mix. I honestly, at the end of the day, for me, it sounds like Demko was really good in the Canucks locker room. He's liked by a lot, so it was to please, I think, the locker room more than anything. Because,
well, if that's true, I actually do like it a little bit more. I think it's important. They have a lot of healing to do in their locker room, so that actually makes me feel a little bit better on it. But it's a lot of money. Luckily, they didn't go crazy long term, which is good. I think 3 years is a smart move. I think if they do need to move him as well, that's movable.
No, you might not.
I think you'd have to retain a little bit, but
if he plays a full season and stays healthy, then but one injury this year and it's unmovable.
Well, yeah, sure. If he gets injured again, but which very, very possible. But
hopefully not, because I do like Demko, but based on his track record, very good chance that there's probably an injury at some point, which would suck. Because I really do like Demko. Like I said, I think he's a great goalie, and if he's healthy, I think it's a great deal. But
Yeah.
You need your starting goalie that you're paying 8.5 to be healthy and be able to play in at least 50% of your games. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, that
one's a wait and see. I'm on the fence with it because
it really is. Well, also he could. Do you know if there's any trade protection on this deal? Because there's a good chance they might want to move him in the second or third year of this because they have Shilov's coming up, and Demko's already
clause.
Full no move. So they've got 2 goalies for the next 3 years. I believe an extra 1 or 2 years for Lankinen. They've got like 13 mil locked up on both goalies with both full no move. Like that's
a little rough.
That's kind of crazy.
A little scary.
You're telling me Demko's value, even after the injury, is so high you couldn't go 3 years, 8.5, and give him a modified no trade or whatever? Like get a 5-team trade list.
Yeah. Again, these are all very early, so maybe it changed, but on as it shows right now, it does show a full no move. So I'm assuming that's what he's locked in with.
Yeah.
Sticking with Vancouver though, all signs were pointing to Brock Besser parting ways from Vancouver. As he didn't resign for an 8-year deal, and he did technically hit the open market. But he had a change of heart. Vancouver had a change of heart, and they were able to come together and agree on a 7-year deal at $7.25 million AAV. Great deal.
Great deal. It's a great goal scorer, pretty good point producer. He's one of the few guys in the league that he hovers around the same amount of goals and assists per season generally. In his entire career, he's got 204 goals, 230 assists. So pretty close to even. Like
he was by far their, in terms of guys that finished the season, their best forward last year.
Yeah. And
it wasn't close.
Every time they've only made the playoffs twice with him on the team, but for both those times, 11 points in 17 games. And then the most recent time, 12 and 12, 7 of them goals. So he's a bit of a playoff performer when he gets there, it seems.
Yeah.
I got no problems with this. I was surprised at how few people seemed confident in him and thought he was going to get a lower number. Like, I don't know. I really like this player, and I
see people throwing that out there, and I think they were just hoping that their team would sign him, and he would be like, "Yeah, I'll go to fucking Carolina, and I'll sign for 8 years at $5 million because this is a great place to play." Like, shut up. Fuck, Ehlers didn't even do that. Why would Besser? Yeah, great deal for Vancouver. Great deal for Brock Besser. And again, all these signings we're just doing based on just highest cap hit. Mikael Granlund going to the Anaheim Ducks, $7 million for 3 years. Yeah,
that's a good deal.
That's fine. It's good for Granlund to get paid. Anaheim's got money to work with. You need to bring in at least some kind of veteran presence to go with your young guys. I think Granlund fits the bill nicely there for him. So great deal.
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where they want him for 2 years. He wants to get paid the most he can, so they add another year, and then they're like, "Yeah, we'll trade you wherever you probably want in year 3 if we need the cap space. If not, fine." Yeah. I see this working out great for both sides.
The New York Rangers signed Vladislav Gavrikov to a 7-year deal. This is a weird cap hit. It's a 7x7.
Yeah, it's like $8,000 less than $7 million for some reason. I don't know if he dinged the owner's car on the way in and they took that money off of his cap hit or something, but
yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, basically 7x7. Great deal. Great solid defenseman on the left side. It's what the Rangers needed. Looks even better when you compare it to Ivan Provorov's deal because Provorov signed his first. So it was like, oh shit, Gavrikov's going to get paid now. And then he signs a nice little 7x7. So that's very nice for him and very nice for the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, this is $500K cheaper than Keandre Miller's cap hit now.
Yeah, and you had a first, a second, and a great prospect.
Yeah.
Tidy work by the Rangers.
I think Gavrikov's probably better than Miller as well. So
I would agree. No disrespect to Miller. Like Gavrikov's a great player.
Yeah.
So it's a great day to be a Rangers fan, I would say. There hasn't been many of those lately. Next year, this is a signing that just happened earlier today. Dmitry Orlov signing a 2-year deal with the San Jose Sharks at 6.5. It got San Jose to the cap floor after this and claiming Nick Leddy off waivers. Orlov's still a great defenseman. I was very critical of him in the playoffs. I don't think he's the greatest guy in the playoffs. But he's not going to be in the playoffs in San Jose. So he's just got to go out there and do his thing and be a great, solid defenseman in the regular season. It'll help bolster San Jose's blue line. It'll help make the goalies' lives easier, help make the forwards' lives a bit easier. It's a win for everybody involved, and Orlov gets a nice little payday after a rough playoff showing.
Yeah, I think after his playoffs, nobody else was willing to give him this much money. And I think to keep the years down at only 2, the Sharks offered a little bit more money than anyone else could. The deal gets done. They need to hit the cap floor, but they also need some defensemen to play for him this year. So I think Orlov is going to do both of those just fine. And if they have any of their young guys coming up and start cracking the lineup and all that, 2 years, it's incredibly movable. Like
first year's got a full no movement. Second year has a 15-team no trade list. So yeah,
so designed to trade in the second year, pretty much. And hell, I mean, if you're looking to trade him for decent assets to a playoff bound team, Orlov will. I mean, he'll probably waive his no move to go to a contender, right? I think there's a pretty good chance, unless it's
I think so.
A team, maybe not Winnipeg, if it's somewhere he really doesn't want to go to. But yeah, I think it's everything about this seems like a match made in heaven, really.
The next 4 here, these are all extensions that were able to be signed on July 1st, so we can kind of just rapid fire through them. Martin Feravari signs a 7-year extension with Washington, 7 years, $6 million per year. Great deal for both sides. Great, solid defensive form that was definitely missed in the playoffs. Connor Garland signing a 6-year, $6 million AAV extension with Vancouver. It's great to see Garland wanted to stick around there despite everything going on.
Yeah,
happy for him. Nice payday for him.
Fan favorite.
Logan Stankoven signing an 8-year extension in Carolina at $6 million per year. Stankoven is a great fit since going there.
That's going to turn fantastic deal.
It's going to turn into a very nice deal for Carolina, as all of their deals seem to do. Well, aside from the newest one, but
that's another one that could be a top 15 contract in the league in a couple of years. Like his shot is so nasty. If he really starts getting up there. Only $6 million. The cap's going up even more and more for 8 years. That's all of his like best development and into his prime years. He'll be till he's 30. Like that's great value.
I really like that one.
That makes the whole Rantanen saga feel a lot better for Carolina.
And the last of the extensions here in the cluster, Willie Mecklin signing a 3-year extension with San Jose at 5.6. Good deal for Eklund, good deal for San Jose. Would have liked it to be more, obviously. Would have liked them to just lock him in on that 8-year deal. But the Sharks are still in that position where they're not handing out long-term deals yet. I'm assuming that'll all start to take place next offseason for them. So
it would have been nice to see them lock him up long-term. But they're clearly waiting. They don't want to sign any real long-term deals until Smith and Celebrini are up. You lock them in, and then you kind of build from there. So it makes sense, but I don't think it's much of a gamble at this point that Eklund will be a great player. So I think they would have been fine going for 7 or 8.
That's what I was hoping for. But
if you're going that long, you might have to get up to $8 million a year or something like that. Who knows what it would have had to be. And I even think that's fine. I feel like the reason they don't do it is because they're thinking man, if Eklund puts up a 2 70-point seasons in a row, and Celebrini has great two-way game and puts up 85, 90 or something like that. Shit, do we have to pay him? How much more do we have to pay him? Like, I feel like it's one of those. I feel like it was one of those. They don't want him to be the guy to set the number. They want to try and get Celebrini, try and talk Celebrini into a discount, and then everyone else has to take a discount because you don't get more than top dog. So, if I had to guess, that's the thinking.
I dig it. We're starting to get into some of the lesser kind of not high-end top-end signs because, again, there wasn't a lot of great names that hit the market. We've only got a little bit of time, so we'll kind of rapid fire through them. If there's any you want me to stop on, we'll give a quick thumbs up, thumbs down for him, and go from there.
Yep, go for it.
Christian Dvorak signs a 1-year deal at 5.4 with Philly.
Don't know why it's only 1 year.
I'll give it a thumbs up.
I think
1 year, a lot of money, but again, only 1 year. Fine with it. Ryan McLeod signing a 4-year deal with the Buffalo Sabres. I guess an extension technically at $5 million per year.
Easy thumbs up. Somebody wants to stay in Buffalo, keep him around.
Yeah. Thumbs up. Cody Ceci, Ken Holland's lover boy, signs a 4-year deal with the LA Kings at 4.5 per year.
Boo.
Ass. Trash. Again, I do like Cody Ceci, but that's a lot of money for a guy that is a bottom pair guy that's probably going to be playing in the top 4 over Brant Clark. So, ass. Don't like that one bit.
Good for Cody Ceci, asset management.
Good for Cody Ceci, though. Got love for the players. Ryan Lindgren signing a 4-year deal with the Seattle Kraken at 4.5. Thumbs down. Ryan Lindgren's solid, but Seattle doesn't need another left-handed defenseman, and Lindgren's numbers have continually taken a dive since not playing alongside Adam Fox. So
he seems like such a Seattle Kraken player to me. He's just one of those guys. They have so many guys that are kind of just absolute dogs and just have more heart than it feels like a lot of other teams have, despite them not having the skill to, be an incredibly good team. So I do like the fit there, but yeah, they didn't really need a guy like him.
Didn't need to. Morgan Frost signing a 2-year extension with the Calgary Flames, 4.375 per year. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Didn't have the greatest time since coming to Calgary in terms of production, but was good defensively, and I think he'll definitely
need a season to
get back more into form. Yeah, exactly. So I like it for Calgary. I like it for Frost. Pia Suter signing a 2-year deal with the St. Louis Blues, 4.125 per year. Great for St. Louis. Great for Suter.
Thumbs up.
Works both sides. Big thumbs up. Jonathan Drouin leaving Colorado, going to the New York Islanders on a 2-year deal at $4 million per year. I'll give a thumbs up.
I think
there's players that'll work with a guy like Drouin. So, I think it can work. And again, if it doesn't, 2-year deal. Who fucking cares?
Yeah, $4 million on the cap hit for only 2 years, and this guy over his last 3 seasons, his points per game has been it's 0.82 or something. It's staggeringly close to a point per game. I know he's played a lot with McKinnon and stuff, but for $4 million, if it drops to 0.6, 0.55, you're still laughing. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Brian Dumoulin signing a 3-year deal with the LA Kings at $4 million per year. In between, thumbs in the middle. He led New Jersey in ice time in the playoffs last year. I thought he was actually really good for New Jersey, despite me shitting on that trade for him. And again, 3-year deal. It's your Gavrikov replacement. He's not as good as Gavrikov, but it was the best available guy, I think, to kind of try and replace that. So
yeah, he's really good defensively. So because of that, I will say thumbs up.
All right, thumbs up for Doomy.
Normally, I would say it's about fair deal, but LA's whole motto is they keep the puck out of the freaking net, and he's just more of that.
That's what Dumoulin does. Yeah,
he fits.
I'm
with
you. Thumbs up. John Klingberg signing a 1-year deal with the San Jose Sharks, $4 million per year. Thumbs up. Again, get San Jose the cap floor. It gives you an offensive defense, and you can probably offload for a nice return, like a Jake Wallman if he excels on that top power play. And for Klingberg, hey, you're getting paid a little bit. Why not? You didn't play much last year, but you found your way into a 4-year deal.
Yeah,
or it's $4 million deal.
It's no 8x8, but it's still something.
No 8x8, but definitely something. And he won't play the whole year on the Sharks.
Yeah. A lot of what I said about Orlov
to a nice contender
works here.
Yeah. Will Cooley signing a 2-year extension with the New York Rangers, 2 years, 3.9 per year. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
He had a great year last year. He didn't get offer sheeted. That's a win for the Rangers. Rangers are really having a great offseason, I will say. Good time to be a Rangers fan again.
Yeah.
Simon Holmstrom signing a 2-year extension with the New York Islanders, 3.625 per year. Great.
Thumbs up.
It's a big thumbs up. Racks up shorthanded goals is a great two-way guy. Love it. Andrew Mangiapane going up north in Alberta, going to the Edmonton Oilers on a 2-year deal, $3.6 million per year. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
I think he can be a solid, decent producer. Yeah. We'll see if one of these kind of deals works out for Edmonton for once.
There's a good chance he plays with Draisaitl, which I think
could be huge for him.
I don't know if he gets back to 40 goals, but I think he can bury quite a few playing with talent like that.
Stanley Cup champion Nate Schmidt, I should say, signing a 3-year deal with the Utah Mammoth, 3.5 per year. Love it for him.
Thumbs up.
Took a cheap league minimum deal, won a Stanley Cup, kind of revived his career, looked like a stud, and he gets a nice little payday for it. So love that for my boy Nate Schmidt. Tanner Jeannot, 5 years.
Utah had a lot of pretty solid moves in the last week and a half.
Utah's been winning ever since they moved to Utah. Ever since they went to Utah, they've just been doing great work. Really great work.
Owner gives a shit. That's always a win.
Tanner Jeannot to the Boston Bruins, 5 years, 3.4. Garbage, ass, horrible.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a lot of money.
Tough for Boston.
He's a Boston player. I'll say that. He fits the Bruins perfectly.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't need cap right now, but it's not really movable either. It's not a fun contract to look at.
Dan Vladar, 2 years, 3.350 with Philly. Love that for him. Good for Philly. You get a goalie at least.
Philly. It's not as obvious as the Oilers because they're not in the Cup final, but I think Philly, even more than the Oilers, needs a goalie. Man, their goaltending's rough. So
it's rough.
Even if it's a little bit of an overpay, it's still not that much, and you have a goalie.
Yeah. Gustav Nyquist going to Winnipeg, 1-year deal, 3.250. Yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up. Winnipeg needs to fill out their forward core a bit. Nyquist fits the bill in their bottom 6.
1-year deal.
Connor Brown, 4-year deal, $3 million per year with New Jersey. Sure, I'm in between. I don't know how he's going to necessarily fit on New Jersey, but I think there's potential.
I think it'll work out.
Nick Perbix going to Nashville, 2 years, 2.750. At least you got a right-hand defenseman, Nashville. That's your top right-hand defenseman now.
That's so bleak. Him being your top right-handed D is so brutal. Like, there's not a lot of right-handed D out there, but oof.
Brandon Tanev going to Utah, 3-year deal, 2.5. Again, low rich for a fourth liner, but they got the money to spend, and he's a great locker room guy, and they got a young team, so I'm actually going to give it a thumbs up. I'm not crazy about the deal, but because of what he brings, I'm giving it a thumbs up.
He's a bottom 6 guy. He can work on the third line if you need him to. You'd prefer not the whole season.
Not if you're chasing playoffs, though. Love Tanev, but
I think if you can flex into it,
better have a damn good third line center then. Corey Perry going to the LA Kings, 1 year, $2 million. Going back to California, stay in the Pacific Division. Edmonton wasn't willing to pay him. LA did. So you know what? I'm going to give it a thumbs up because he's still effective at 40 years old.
Yeah.
Tony DeAngelo, 1-year deal, sticking around with the Islanders, 1.750. Big thumbs up. Great value there for what he's going to produce. Joel Hanley, sticking around in Calgary, 2-year deal, 1.750. Great defenseman, thumbs up. Gage Gonzalez, your boy, 2-year deal with Tampa, $1.2 million per year. Solid thumbs up. Love that.
That's solid.
Jake Allen was one of the ones we wanted to mention. 5-year deal with New Jersey, $1.8 million per year. Big thumbs up. Great value for a backup goalie.
That's so cheap for a guy who had a great year. Like, this is a guy that is rumored that the Oilers really wanted, and they want him so bad, and it's like that's a lot of people wanting him for a guy making under $2 million now. So
yeah,
if they do decide to move him, which I don't think they will right away unless offered something goofy, you could get a lot for that deal.
Yeah, I think so, given that cap hit for sure. And to wrap it up, we got 2 signings left here. We got the little man and the big man. We got top Russian prospect Maxim Shabanov going to the New York Islanders on a 1-year, $975,000 deal. Big thumbs up. Islanders again, back-to-back years. They get the top free agent coming out of the KHL, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player for them. And the last one, the big man, Brent Burns, out in Carolina, going and sign a 1-year deal with the Colorado Avalanche. That's a great fit for the Avs. It's a great fit for Burns. Ray Bourque was 40 years old when he was chasing a cup, and he went to the Avs and got it done. Brent Burns is 40 years old, chasing a cup and going to Colorado. It just makes sense. It just feels right. So that's a big thumbs up for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's all the major kind of big signings. Again, we did miss slots, we know. So along with the extensions, with the draft, and now with the signing of free agents, if we missed any players from your team or anything that you want us to talk about, let us know. We're going to have lots of time next week. We can come back to it and we can discuss those even more in depth to please you and make you happy. So again, if we missed anyone, let us know. We'll come back to it. But that does wrap it up for this episode, recapping free agency, the draft, all of that craziness. We will be back next weekend. Who knows what will be going on at that point, but we'll be back next week. But that does it for this one. Again, if you want us to know your thoughts on what's going on or what you want us to talk about, whether it's now or even later on the offseason, we're going to have lots of time. So if you have any ideas or stuff you want us to talk about, feel free to let us know through any of our socials. The links to all of the socials are in the description across all episodes, across all platforms. Braden, it's been a long, hectic last week around the league. It's been a longer episode than I think we're anticipating, but we made it here. And for everybody who stuck around to the end,
look at us.
I must ask you, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's the off season, man. For guys like us who live and breathe hockey, it takes a long time to get through. And if you're listening to this, I got to imagine you're a pretty big hockey fan as well. So if you want to talk hockey, absolutely hit us up on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on TikTok, on wherever, on any of the socials we got. Like, if you want to talk hockey, jump in our comment sections, jump in the DMs, let us know, because we got several months where we gotta figure some stuff out to talk about hockey when there's not going to be much new news going on. So if you want to talk hockey, keep in touch.
Couldn't agree with you more. Everybody slide into our DMs. We are open for business. But that will wrap it up for this one. Thank you again to everybody for tuning in and following along. And as always, we will see all of you out on the ice next week. Next week. We're getting back into it here.